Ahoj, vítejte na mém kanále Czech by Zuzka, kde vám pomocí angličtiny vysvětluju českou gramatiku. Today I want to teach you how important our verb dát is. Maybe you've heard someone say, co se dá dělat? Nedá se nic dělat. But what does that mean? We will find out in a few minutes. But first, I would like to show you all kinds of ways how to use the verb dát or dávat. And let's get started. Jdeme na to. Dát, as you might know, means to give. Dát is a perfective form. That means when you conjugate it, when you say já dám, it means I will give. If you want to use present, like present simple, something happening regularly, or present continuous right now, you would use the form dávat, which is imperfective, and you would say dávám. That would mean I am giving. This form, however, is not going to work for all these three options that I wrote. Let's take a look at the first option. Dát, in a sense of giving, can be followed by a dative, that is an indirect object, and an accusative, the direct object. Usually you give something to someone. For instance, dal jsem mu radu. I gave him a piece of advice. Dal jsem mu radu. In this category you can use both dávat and dát. So both perfective and imperfective. Now I'm sure that many of you know this phrase, dát si něco, when you order food or drinks. It's a very handy phrase. When you go to a restaurant, you can say dám si pizzu. I'll have a pizza. Dám si pizzu. Dám si, I'll give to myself something, a pizza. That is the accusative case, that is the direct object. You can also use both perfective and imperfective version, although it's more common to use the perfective when you order. And if you talk to someone and say, you know, I always order a pizza in this place because it's the best, you would say, tady si vždycky dávám pizzu, protože ji mají fakt dobrou. I always order a pizza here because they make it really good. Tady si vždycky dávám pizzu. Repetition. In this lecture, I will talk mostly about this last part. This is something that's usually not introduced in textbooks, at least not at the beginning, because it's a sort of a phrasal verb. However, it is really handy to know about it. You can also have dát followed by se and an infinitive of a verb. Maybe you've seen my reel that I prepared about this particular topic, and I showed to you 5 phrases where dát se doesn't mean to give. And it indeed doesn't mean to give here. Also, in this particular function, we cannot use the imperfective form. We only use the perfective dát. Let me give you an example. Your friend told you that this place makes the best pizza, and you order one, and you taste it, and the pizza is just impossible to eat. So you say, to se nedá jíst. Tahle pizza se nedá jíst. Tohle se nedá jíst. Which means I cannot eat this. This is impossible to eat. Tohle se nedá jíst. This particular grammar means that something is possible. You can do it. And we use it in a general way. If you say, tahle pizza se nedá jíst, you mean, yes, I cannot eat this pizza, but you mean in general, like this pizza is just impossible to eat because it's so bad. I'm giving an example with a negative. Nedát se. Tahle pizza se nedá jíst. Now, let's see more examples for all these 3 categories, one by one. First, we will have a quick look at the verb dát and dávat, where it actually means to give. And as I mentioned, it is followed by dative and accusative. It's important to mention that these two can be interchanged. It doesn't have to be in this order. You know that the Czech word order is quite flexible. For instance, dáš mi 5 minut, prosím? Will you give me 5 minutes, please? If you want to ask someone for more time, dáš mi 5 minut, prosím. Dáš mi, to me, this is the dative. 5 minut, this is the accusative. I'm using these colors, blue for accusative, red for dative. I use the same color coding in my ebook focused on grammatical cases, just in case. And just in case you haven't purchased it, take a look at it. This ebook will teach you Czech in terms of grammatical cases, but it's not only about them. This ebook will help you master the Czech grammatical cases and understand a lot more of the Czech language. So will you give me 5 minutes, please? Or dej mi pokoj. We also have mi, pokoj. This means leave me in peace. Pokoj means a room and also like a space, a peace. So dej mi pokoj, give me space, give me room, leave me alone. Very important phrase. Now this longer sentence. K narozeninám jsem kamarádce dala knížku. I gave a book to my friend for her birthday. For her birthday, I gave my friend a book. Kamarádce, that's dative. Knížku, that's the accusative case. Now let me remind you how to use the other reflexive form, dát si. Dát and dávat si plus the accusative case. I bet you know this phrase, co si dáte? What will you have? What can I offer you? Co si dáte? This is a formal phrase, a polite phrase that a waiter or a waitress can ask you. What will you have? What would you like to have? You know why I underlined si in red? Because it's actually a dative form. Although it is reflexive, it's a reflexive pronoun. It's pointing towards the person that we refer to. Co si dáte? What will you give to yourself? And this will help you remember that you cannot use any other dative form because there is already one and you don't have two indirect objects in one sentence. So we have one direct object, the accusative, and one indirect, the dative. Dám si kávu. I'll have a coffee. Kávu. And dám si kávu. I will not speak more about this, but if you are interested in practicing this phrase or more phrases with the accusative and dative, let me know. Now let's see how to use dát se. Now let's take a look at dát se plus infinitive, where dát se doesn't mean to give, but it works like some kind of modal verb to inform you whether something is possible or not. You can say, nedá se nic dělat. This is a sentence that we use a lot when there is nothing that can be done. You know, oh well, what can you do? Literally, this means nothing can be done or what can you do? Se, and the infinitive here is dělat. And of course, you can have other components of the phrase, nothing can be done. You can do nothing about it. Nedá se nic dělat. Co se dá dělat? This is a phrase that means something very similar. It's just a different way of expressing it. Kind of like a rhetorical question. What can you do? What can be done? Co se dá dělat? What is possible to do? What can be do? What can you do? You use this sentence when there is nothing you can do about a certain problem. You just have to do it or let it be, etc. Co se dá dělat? What can you do? These phrases have the same function. You can both translate them as what can you do? This one is more like there is nothing that can be done, and this is more like what can you do? And of course, if you want to say literally, what can you do about this problem? Actually asking a question, you can also use this and put a question mark. Co se s tím dá dělat? What can be done about this? But it is still asking generally, not so much as an I, what can I do, or what can we do, but what can we generally do, you can generally do. To se nedá poslouchat. Can you guess what this means? To se nedá poslouchat. When you hear a horrible music, you can say, this is impossible to listen to. I can't listen to that. Or tohle se nedá poslouchat. I can't listen to this. To se nedá vydržet. Vydržet means to hold on or bear. I can't stand this. That is impossible to bear. To se nedá vydržet. Of course, you can also say tohle, which would be this is impossible to bear. When you hear a really loud and horrible music, you can use both of them. To se nedá poslouchat. Tohle se prostě nedá vydržet. This is just impossible to bear. And our last example, dá se to objet. Objet means to go around, to bypass something, like an obstacle. So let's say someone's digging a hole in the road and you come in your car and then you ask, dá se to objet? Can I go around it? Dá se to objet? Is it possible to be bypassed? So you can play with this phrase, you can use all kinds of infinitives. And remember, this is a general meaning describing a situation being possible or impossible when you use a negative. And remember one more thing, it only works with the perfective dát, not dávat. You could kind of replace it by the verb moct, can, but then you have to be more specific about the subject. When you say nedá se nic dělat, you have to say nemůžu nic dělat or nemůžeme nic dělat. This one is general. You don't express who's the subject. It's just it, the situation. It's a very similar concept as this video when I was talking about verbs that refer to our senses. I recommend you to watch this video afterwards. Let's do an exercise where we will put these sentences to practice. You have 7 sentences here and it's a mixture of dát si, dát se and dát non-reflexive. Let's read them together first. Co si dáte? What will you have? Dáš mi 5 minut, prosím? Will you give me 5 minutes, please? Co se dá dělat? What can you do? Tohle se nedá poslouchat. This is impossible to listen to. Na tohle se nedá dívat. This is impossible to watch. Dá se to jíst? Can we eat it? Can you eat it? Is it edible? And this last one. Nedá se to obět? Is it possible to go around it? When you put ne in front of it, it is a little bit more careful. Dá se to obět is just more direct, but both are good. Now underneath you have 6 mini dialogues. These mini dialogues need a specific sentence to complete them. From here, there are 2 phrases that you can use for one dialogue. I know I'm covering part of the English translation, so just take a quick look. Pause the video, work on it on your own, and then we will check it together. Okay, the first dialogue. Na dálnici D1 je zácpa. Kde přesně? Nedá se to objet? Because you want to go around it. Is it possible to go around it? 2. Dobrý den. Co si dáte? A. Zatím si dám neperlivou vodu. Číslo 3. Tohle se nedá poslouchat. Or. Na tohle se nedá dívat. Nechceš tu televizi vypnout. Although TV is more about watching, but maybe you also cannot bear listening to it. Jdem na oběd. Moment. Dáš mi 5 minut, prosím. B. Už zase prší. C. Co se dá dělat? Půjdeme ven i tak. Tak dobrou chuť. Enjoy your meal. Ani jsem to nechutnala. F. Dá se to jíst? To je ode mě všechno. If you're curious about the Czech language and want to really understand how it works, I recommend you once again to check my ebook, just in case. S mým e-bookem se čeština dá pochopit. With my ebook, you can understand the Czech language. Mějte se. Čau, čau.